The arrival. Admiral Zenith Vexus stood on the command deck of the Imperial dreadnought Inevitable Conquest, her eight-fingered hands clasped behind her back as she gazed at the blue-green planet displayed on the main view screen. Earth, such an unassuming name for what would soon become the newest acquisition of the Kelforan Empire. "Status report," she demanded, her voice carrying the metallic quality typical of her species. First Officer Drav approached with practiced efficiency. The scars on his face marked him as a veteran of numerous conquest campaigns. "All systems nominal, Admiral. The fleet is in position. Cloaking fields are stable at maximum efficiency. The primitives have no indication of our presence." Vexus nodded, satisfaction evident in her luminescent yellow eyes. "Excellent. This will be a simple operation. The Emperor will be pleased to add another resource-rich world to our holdings." She studied the tactical display showing her fleet, 47 warships arranged in the standard Kelforan conquest formation, hidden behind their advanced cloaking technology that had never failed in 17 previous campaigns. "Their defenses?" she inquired. "Laughable, Admiral." Tactical Officer Mira responded. Her tendrils twitched with amusement as she brought up detailed scans. Chemical propellant weapons, primitive nuclear devices, a handful of crude orbital stations. They haven't even colonized their moon properly. According to our intelligence, they've been fighting among themselves for resources instead of reaching for the stars. They'll surrender within hours. The conquest protocol was well established. To cloaking over major population centers, destroying key military installations as a demonstration of power, then accepting the inevitable surrender. Quick, efficient, and requiring minimal casualties. Exactly how the Empire preferred to operate. "Sir," Communications Officer Tekris interrupted, his normally composed voice tinged with confusion. "We're receiving a transmission." Vexus turned sharply. "From the fleet?" "No, Admiral. From Earth." The command deck fell silent. That was impossible. The fleet was cloaked with technology that even advanced civilizations couldn't detect. "How?" Vexus demanded. "Unknown, sir, but the transmission is addressed specifically to you, by name and rank." Vexus felt an unfamiliar sensation crawl along her spine. Their intelligence operations were classified at the highest level. No one outside the Empire should know her identity or the fleet's presence. On screen, she ordered after a moment's hesitation. The view screen shifted to show a human face, a female with dark hair pulled back tightly and eyes that seemed unnervingly perceptive. She wore a simple gray uniform with no insignia or decoration. "Admiral Zenith Vexus of the Kelforan Empire's 7th Conquest Fleet. I am Dr. Elena Reyes, Earth Defense Coordinator," the human said in perfect Kelforan, another impossibility that made Vexus' tendrils stiffen involuntarily. "We've been expecting you." Vexus maintained her composure through decades of military discipline. "You appear to have us at a disadvantage, Dr. Reyes. I'm curious how a pre-FTL civilization detected our presence and learned our language." The human's expression remained neutral. "Your cloaking technology relies on phase-shifting your matter's signature by 0.37 degrees out of our reality. Effective against conventional scanning methods, but we abandoned those approaches centuries ago." First Officer Drav leaned close to Vexus. "She's bluffing. Their planetary emissions show no evidence of such technological capability." Dr. Rice continued as if she had heard him. "You're planning to position your ships over our major cities, destroy several military installations as a show of force, and then demand our surrender. This approach has worked for you 17 times before. It will not work here." Vexus straightened her uniform, recovering her confidence. "Impressive intelligence gathering, Dr. Reyes. Nevertheless, the outcome remains inevitable. The Kelforan Empire has never failed in a conquest operation. Your world will join our empire, one way or another. Admiral, we have no interest in conflict, but we cannot allow your empire to bring its destructive influence to Earth. We've observed your previous conquests. The ecological damage alone from your mining operations is unacceptable. Vexus allowed herself a small smile. Your concern is noted, but your options are limited. You can surrender and receive protected status within the Empire, or you can resist and face the consequences. There is a third option, Dr. Reyes replied. We demonstrate why attacking Earth would be a catastrophic mistake for your Empire, and you leave our solar system intact. Tactical Officer Mira scoffed. The arrogance of primitives never ceases to amaze me. Dr. Rice's expression remained unchanged. Perhaps a small demonstration would be appropriate. Please observe asteroid designation KTN 5294 in your database, currently positioned 3.7 million kilometers from your fleet. Vexus gestured to Mira, who quickly located the object. The view screen split to show a large, irregular asteroid tumbling slowly through space. A simple rock. Vexus said dismissively. What of it? Watch carefully, Admiral. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then, without warning, without explosion or visible energy discharge, the asteroid simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. No debris field, no energy signature, nothing. Alarms blared across the command deck as sensors frantically tried to locate the missing mass. Impossible, Mira whispered, her confident demeanor shattered. There's no residual radiation, no gravitational disturbance. It's as if it never existed. What did you do? Vexus demanded, unable to keep the shock from her voice. We removed it from this dimensional plane, Dr. Rice explained calmly. We call it folding, a manipulation of space-time at the quantum level. The asteroid still exists, just elsewhere. First Officer Drav recovered first. This is some kind of illusion. Our sensors are being manipulated. I assure you, it's quite real, Dr. Reyes replied. The same technology could be applied to your ships, Admiral. Not as a weapon. We've moved beyond such thinking, but as a defensive measure. Vexus felt something she hadn't experienced in decades of military service. Doubt. If the humans possessed technology that could simply remove objects from reality, conventional military doctrine was meaningless. Why reveal such capability? She asked. Tactical advantage would suggest hiding your strength until necessary. Because we prefer to avoid conflict entirely. The universe is vast, Admiral Vexus. There's no need for conquest when cooperation offers greater rewards for all. Vexus studied the human's face, searching for deception and finding none. You understand that I require verification of these claims before considering any change to our operation. Of course, Dr. Reyes nodded. We propose a meeting on neutral ground. Mars, your outpost, there would be suitable. Bring whatever scanning equipment and security personnel you deem necessary. Vexus raised an eyebrow ridge. They even knew about the small observation post the Empire had established on Mars months earlier. Very well, she agreed finally. 6 hours from now, I will bring a delegation. Thank you, Admiral. We look forward to a productive discussion. The transmission ended, leaving the command deck in uneasy silence. It's a trick, Drav insisted immediately. Some form of sensor manipulation or holographic technology. Perhaps, Vexus conceded, but if not, she didn't complete the thought. If humanity truly possessed the ability to fold objects out of reality, the Empire's standard conquest protocol was not merely useless, it was potentially suicidal. Maintain fleet readiness, she ordered. I want continuous scans of the Earth's surface and orbital patterns. If they attempt to deploy any weapons, I want to know immediately. As her crew rushed to comply, Vexus turned back to the view screen, studying the seemingly unremarkable planet with new eyes. In 17 previous conquests, no civilization had ever detected their fleet before the intended reveal. No species had ever addressed her by name before first contact. And certainly, no world had ever made Kelpharan technology seem primitive by comparison. For the first time in her distinguished career, Admiral Zenith Vexus faced the unsettling possibility that she had severely underestimated her opponent. The revelation. The Martian outpost, little more than a collection of pressurized modules tucked within a crater, seemed almost pathetically small as the Imperial shuttle descended toward it. Admiral Vexus watched through the viewport as dust swirled around the landing struts, the red landscape stretching to the horizon in all directions. "Security teams report ready, Admiral," First Officer Drav said from beside her. "The area has been swept 3 times. No explosives, no anomalous energy signatures. And our guests already arrived, apparently, though our sensors detected no landing craft." The frustration in his voice was evident. Vexus nodded, unsurprised. After witnessing the disappearing asteroid, little about the humans would surprise her now. "Maintain alert status for the fleet. If anything happens to our delegation, Commander Lyrics has orders to immediately commence bombardment of Earth's major cities." The shuttle touched down with a slight jolt. Vexus rose to her full height, nearly 7 feet of armored Kelphoran military precision. She had selected her delegation carefully. Drav for security, Science Officer Kella for technical assessment, and 2 elite guards carrying the most advanced scanning equipment the Empire possessed. They cycled through the airlock and entered the main module of the outpost. Dr. Elena Reyes stood waiting with 2 colleagues, a tall, dark-skinned male and an older female with silver hair. All 3 wore the same simple gray uniforms, still without insignia or decoration. "Admiral Vexus," Dr. Reyes greeted with a slight bow. "Thank you for meeting with us. Allow me to introduce Professor Nathan Chen, our dimensional physics specialist, and Dr. Sofia Lakatos, Earth's diplomatic liaison." Vexus acknowledged them with a curt nod. "You understand my skepticism, Dr. Reyes. Your claims require substantial proof." "Of course." Dr. Lakatos stepped forward. Her voice carried the weight of age and wisdom. "We've prepared several demonstrations, along with technical explanations that your science officer should find illuminating." Kella immediately began scanning the humans with her equipment. "Admiral, I'm detecting no weapons, communications devices, or unusual technology. However," she frowned at her readings, "their biological signatures are unusual." "Unusual how?" Vexus demanded. "Their cellular activity is highly organized, almost artificially so, and there's something like a quantum resonance field surrounding each of them." Professor Chen smiled slightly. "Not surrounding, Officer Kella. Integrated. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Perhaps we should start with fundamentals." The group moved to a conference table where the humans activated a holographic display unlike any Vexus had seen before. The images possessed a clarity and dimensionality that made the Empire's best technology seem crude by comparison. "Your Empire expanded outward," Dr. Lakatos began, "conquering worlds, harvesting resources, building ever larger fleets, a logical progression for a species with your evolutionary history and planetary constraints." The display showed the Kelphoran homeworld, a resource-poor planet that had driven their species to develop space travel out of necessity. "Humanity faced similar challenges," she continued. "Our world was rapidly depleting its resources. We fought devastating wars. We nearly destroyed ourselves with nuclear weapons. We stood at the same crossroads your ancestors did. Yet you chose a different path," Vexus observed. "Yes. Rather than expanding outward to take what we needed, we turned inward to create what we needed." Professor Chen took over, manipulating the display to show complex molecular structures. "We mastered manipulation of matter at the quantum level. We learned to fold dimensional space." Kella leaned forward, her scientific curiosity overriding military protocol. "Impossible. The energy requirements alone would be prohibitive using conventional physics," Chen finished for her. "But we discovered something your scientists have overlooked. Dimensional resonance. The multiverse isn't separated by energy barriers, but by frequency differentials. Shift the resonance frequency, and matter can transition between dimensional planes without massive energy expenditure." The display showed a visualization that made Kella gasp. This would revolutionize everything. It did, Dr. Rice confirmed. Energy production, resource utilization, waste management, all transformed. We no longer needed to mine our world to exhaustion or fight wars over dwindling resources. We could create what we needed or extract it from parallel dimensional planes where it existed in abundance. Vexus remained stoic, but her mind raced with implications. If true, humanity possessed technology that made the Empire's greatest achievements seem like a child's toys. A convincing presentation, she said carefully. But displays and theories aren't evidence. Of course, Chen nodded. We've prepared a practical demonstration. He produced a small device, a simple cube that fit in his palm. This contains various elements in their pure form: gold, uranium, carbon in different crystalline structures. Your scanners can verify its contents. Kella ran her scanner over the cube, confirming the human's claim. The contents match his description, Admiral. Chen placed the cube on the table. Now observe. He passed his hand over the device, and before their eyes, the cube transformed. The solid matter rearranged itself, flowing like liquid before resolidifying in the shape of a perfect miniature replica of the inevitable conquest. Matter restructuring at the molecular level, Chen explained. A basic application of our technology. First Officer Drav couldn't contain himself. This is nothing but advanced nanotechnology. Impressive, but not the reality-bending capability you claim. A fair observation, Chen acknowledged. He gestured to the model. Scan it again, please. Kella did so, then stared at her readings in disbelief. Admiral, the elemental composition has changed. The gold and uranium are gone, replaced by elements not in our periodic table. Not from this dimensional plane, Chen corrected. We exchanged matter with a parallel Earth where different elements evolved. Again, a basic application of our technology. Vexus felt the ground shifting beneath her feet, not literally, but conceptually. Her entire career, the Empire's entire existence, was predicated on technological superiority. That foundation was crumbling before her eyes. If your capabilities are so advanced, she challenged, why haven't you expanded beyond your solar system? Why don't we find human colonies throughout the galaxy? Dr. Lakatos smiled gently. Why would we need to? With dimensional folding, we have access to infinite resources, infinite space. We've explored thousands of parallel Earths, each with its own wonders and challenges. The conventional three-dimensional universe is just one avenue of expansion among many. More importantly, Dr. Rice added, we learn from our past mistakes. Expansion for its own sake, conquest is policy. These are developmental stages that lead to stagnation. The Kelfarin Empire has conquered 17 worlds, yet your fundamental technology hasn't advanced significantly in 2 centuries. The statement struck Vexus like a physical blow, partly because she recognized its truth. The Empire had grown larger but not necessarily better. Before she could respond, her communicator activated. Admiral, Commander Lyrix's voice came through urgently. Weapons Officer Tark has launched a preemptive strike against Earth. 3 kinetic bombardment projectiles are en route to their major population centers. I tried to countermand, but... You fool, Vexus hissed. Recall them immediately. Too late, Lyrix replied. Impact in 40 seconds. Vexus turned to the humans, expecting panic or anger. Instead, she found them calmly observing her. I did not authorize this attack, she stated firmly. Officer Tark will be severely punished. We know, Dr. Reyes replied, activating her own communication device, a thin bracelet on her wrist. Defense control, activate Fold Shield Alpha. The holographic display shifted to show Earth from orbit. As they watched, a shimmering field of energy. No, not energy, but a distortion in space itself, enveloped the planet. The 3 massive projectiles, each capable of devastating a continent, simply vanished upon contact with the field. Where did they go? Drav demanded. To an uninhabited parallel Earth, Chen explained. One of many we use for such purposes. Your weapons will impact nothing but empty rock. A new transmission came through to Vexus. Admiral, Lyrix's voice was now tight with fear. Something's happening to the fleet. Ships are disappearing. The display shifted again to show the Kelphoran fleet. One by one, ships were vanishing, blinking out of existence without explosion or debris. We haven't harmed your crew, Dr. Rice assured Vexus. Each ship has been temporarily folded into a containment dimension. They're experiencing a time dilation effect. From their perspective, only seconds will pass while we conclude our discussion. Vexus stared at the display, watching her mighty fleet disappear ship by ship. Within moments, only the inevitable conquest remained. You could have done this at any time, she realized aloud. Yes, Dr. Lakatos confirmed. We detected your advanced scouts months ago. We could have removed your entire fleet before you knew what was happening. But that's not our way. What is your way then? Vexus asked, finding herself genuinely curious despite the strategic catastrophe unfolding before her. Understanding, Lakatos replied simply. Growth. Connection. We believe all sentient species have something valuable to offer. Even the Kelphoran Empire, despite its conquest philosophy, has created remarkable art, literature, and social structures. Dr. Reyes stepped forward. We're offering an alternative to conquest. Admiral Vexus, a partnership. We can show your people how to develop dimensional technology for yourselves. Imagine an empire with no need to conquer worlds for resources, an empire that could turn its considerable organizational talents toward exploration and discovery instead. Vexus considered the offer carefully. Her military training screamed that this was somehow a trap, but her more rational mind recognized the truth. If humans wanted to destroy the Kelphoran Empire, they clearly possessed the capability to do so. The fact that they were offering cooperation instead revealed something profound about their species. The Emperor will never agree, Drav muttered. Our entire society is built on conquest. Societies evolve, Vexus replied, making her decision. As the humans have demonstrated, there are other paths to greatness. She turned to Dr. Reyes. I will return to my ship and contact the Imperial Council. I believe they will be interested in your proposal. A wise choice, Admiral, Dr. Lakatos said with a genuine smile. Your ships will be returned once you've cleared Earth orbit. As the Kelphoran delegation prepared to depart, Professor Chen approached Vexus privately. You're wondering if we manipulated you somehow, if this was all an elaborate show designed to trick you. Vexus studied him. The thought had crossed my mind. That's the difference between our approaches, Admiral. You see deception as a tool. We see it as unnecessary. Everything we've shown you is real. The universe is far more complex and wonderful than conquest philosophies allow for. As Vexus boarded her shuttle, she looked back at the humans standing in the Martian outpost. For the first time in her career, she was returning from a mission without a conquered world to show for it. Yet somehow, it felt like the Empire had gained something far more valuable than another planet to exploit. Perhaps, she thought as the shuttle lifted off, this is how new ages begin, not with victories or defeats, but with revelations that change everything that follows.